Hello, everybody. I'm Drew Duncan. The show's fired up, and we are live. I am brought to you in part by WBFR, Live 50 Radio, which is online 24/7, 365 at blind50radio.com. I am wherever you are listening to podcasts. Take a device to play Fired Up by Drew Duncan, iTunes, iHeart, etc. Wherever you're listening, I am there. Plenty to get to today with free agency and the NFL. My goodness, the Falcons, the Raiders, the Packers, the Eagles, the Titans. Plenty to get to with trades, signings, all of it. We're going to be talking about Kayla Ard, who was unceremoniously fired after the loss against Boise State. Still wouldn't handle the press conference like a boss. How is your team doing in free agency? If you're a Broncos fan, I feel sorry for you. You got 99 problems. That's it. I'm not finished. Like, you literally have 99 problems in Denver. Boy, what a mess. What a mess that was left by the GM, by ownership, by Peyton. You're losing everybody, and I get it. You know, Denver wasn't exactly the creme de la creme the last couple of seasons, but damn, man, after the way you did Russ, it's going to be a while. It is going to be a while before Denver will recover from this. Remember that Tiger King? I'm never going to financially recover from this. Literally, that's Denver right now. Never going to financially recover from this, and who knows what they'll be able to get in free agency. We're talking uninspiring signings at best. You screwed the pooch. You done messed up, Ron. So Kirk Cousins is allegedly signing with Atlanta, which, by the way, I want to remind everybody that this is what is called the legal tampering period. Just to be clear, while anybody can back out, 99% of the time they don't. Anybody can back out of this. Now, from what I know, teams have never backed out, but players have. It's been rare, but they have backed out and they can. So I want everybody to be aware that these signings are not official just yet. This is all talk. This is all, yeah, sure, I'm going to sign with you. Nothing is guaranteed right now. So I want to be clear. Regardless, Kirk Cousins, $180 million in potential earning. He's got $100 million guaranteed, 4-year deal. You know, Raheem Morris was very clear when he took the coaching job. We would have been good, but we didn't have quarterback play. Look, he's stepping into a situation that is good and terrible, right? You've got a new head football coach, okay? No more Arthur Smith. I'm sure Atlanta fans are excited about that at the bare minimum. I'm not really sure that you're excited about Kirk Cousins and how he's going to do in primetime. I'm not sure that you're excited about Kirk Cousins and the fact that he tore his Achilles in week 8 of last season. So how healthy will he be come season start? Will he still be himself? You know, Kirk Cousins is one of those QBs that just puts up numbers, but he can't seem to win games. Okay, in Washington, I get it. In Minnesota, look, man, he was either hurt or he just couldn't get it done. And I'm going to go with both. It was a combination of both. And it's not like Minnesota was blowing it out of the water before he went down. Let's be honest about that. Look, you got Bijan Robinson at running back. The game plan geared away from him for who knows whatever reason. He missed a game that still nobody seems to know the answers about. The NFL investigated that. He had over 1,400 total yards, nearly 1,000 on the ground, then over 500 receiving. Your defense was ranked 11th in the nation. Well, in the NFL, I should say. You got Nate London coming back, so that's a positive. But you've also got Drake London, who's the only receiver that's officially signed that was any good on the roster from a season ago. You still have Kyle Pitts. You've got nothing but free agents at wide receiver. You got a couple of free agents at line. So who knows what the depth chart is going to look like there. You're not going to get a receiver that's really good in free agency right now because Mike Evans has already decided to return to Tampa. Now, they do have, at this point, the number 8 pick in the draft. So with the number 8 pick, you could get lucky in Marvin Harrison Jr. be there, but I don't really know, man. Look, the Chargers might be looking to add somebody for Justin Herbert. The Titans could use a running back and a lineman more to me than they could use a wide receiver. You got Marquise Brown. He's out there still unsigned, but I mean, at this point, that seems like a move that Denver's probably going to have to make, considering the fact that you don't have Jerry Jeudy anymore. And I'm sure it won't be long before Cortland Sutton says that he wants to leave. And Brown, you never know if he's going to decide to play or not. So there's that. Washington, they may decide to take Marvin Harrison Jr. early in the draft. They're sitting at the number 2 spot. So Atlanta's kind of got themselves in a good situation in terms of maybe you could go after a wide receiver. I mean, you still got that kid out of LSU, so you never really know, right? Xavier out of Texas, you never really know, okay? It's not all about Marvin Harrison Jr., even though he's far and away, I think, the best wide receiver that come out of this draft class. I understand, old boy at Texas, unofficial record that he set and everything at the Columbine with the 4.22. That's good on you, Brody, but, football speed on the field and football speed when nobody's around you to tackle you are two different things. And anybody who's ever played knows that. I'm just going to tell you that right now Atlanta, while they may have made the, quote, splash with the Kirk Cousins signing, I'm not sold on it, if I'm being honest with you. And look, they decided to go veteran over rookie, right? There were a lot of people that thought that they were going to take Jane Daniels. There were a lot of people who believed that maybe Justin Fields could end up down in Atlanta. I don't think that's going to happen now because I think Fields still believes that he's a starter no matter where he goes. Could Jane Daniels be there? Yeah, okay, but why would you take Jane Daniels when you've got Kirk Cousins locked in for 4 years? I don't know that Jane Daniels is going to want to wait and sit for 4 years. I think he'd be willing to sit and wait a year or two, but then again, he might get his shot because we all know how injury-prone Kirk Cousins is. So, ATL fan, look, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know that this is one of the better signings in free agency. I think maybe you saved your money. I mean, going into today, what they have, $39 million, if I'm not mistaken, in unused salary cap, $37 million in unused salary cap space. I think you could have maybe found an offensive lineman. I think maybe you could have gone after, a little bit more defense. I think you could have focused on getting your wide receiving core intact and then drafted a quarterback. But nothing says that Jane Daniels is going to be available. I know that people are gung-ho on Caleb Williams. I know that people are gung-ho on J.J. McCarthy. I'm just gung-ho on Jane Daniels. And I've already told the homie P, you want Jane Daniels. I just don't know that he sits for 4 years. And if you're going to get a first-round guy and pay him first-round money, it doesn't behoove anybody to let him sit around, especially after you just gave Kirk Cousins a 100% guarantee on $100 million, Brody. It's going to be really hard to do anything else. You've got some unused salary cap space. Okay, great. But now what do you do, though? Look, your offensive line wasn't exactly the worst in the NFL. You had a defense that could get the job done. You're definitely set at running back. Raheem Morris, I think, knows what he's doing, but it's just really weird to me to be overly critical of the quarterback play, which to me was a lot of the fault of Arthur Smith. I mean, at one point you had Heineke and Ritter just starting kind of back and forth, and, there was just no real decision-making within that franchise. And I think week to week, they were just kind of winging it. Now, I understand that in free agency, a lot of people probably wouldn't have been happy with the Russell Wilson sign. I think it would have been better than what you just did with Kirk Cousins. It damn sure would have been cheaper. You've got Denver eating the majority of that, 37, 38 million. You would have only paid Russell Wilson $1 million. I would have gone after Russell a little bit harder, if I'm being honest with you. But it is what it is, and here we are. Atlanta fan, do you like the Kirk Cousins signing? So the Raiders, they get Wilkins, they get Minshew, they lose Jacobs, obviously. Look, first of all, Miami, they can't afford to be losing anybody on defense, let alone Wilkins. So there goes their defense. And for anybody wondering what he does best, it's real simple. Bull rush up the middle, no remorse, that's it. I mean, you want to talk about guys with motors that never stop running? It's Crosby and Wilkins. And then you've got this whole attitude of Antonio Pierce and what's going on with him. And Crosby embraces what a Raider is. This is how we used to see the Raiders in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Antonio Pierce is about that. I guarantee you Wilkins is going to be about that. And Crosby's about that. Seriously. I mean, come on, man. Did anybody see the thing where him and Dana White were chilling? And Dana White was like, yo, Crosby will fuck some people up. He was like, you know what I'm talking about. He's just looking at him, and Crosby's sitting there like, man, you dry snitching right now. You saying too much. But, yo, he kept it a buck. It was just like, he can, trust me. He can and he will. The hell does Dana White know that the rest of us don't? Look, before they signed Wilkins, they had $35 million in unused salary cap. Obviously, they add Gardner Minshew. I think that means we all know that Jimmy G, he's out. That's all there is to that. He wasn't playing up to snuff. Hurt. Then on top of that, he's got a 2-game suspension coming up for alleged PED use. Sam Darnold was a free agent at the end of the past season, so he's probably going to be gone. So what do? You get Gardner Minshew, and it looks like you're set up with Aiden O'Connell. Now, running back is going to be a thing, right? But to be fair, what have they got? The 13th pick in the draft? I mean, take your pick, man. Trey Benson, Blake Corum, Bucky Irving, Audric Estime. Now, for me, my favorite running back in college football, and who I believe was the best running back in college football, is Audric Estime. And I think Audric Estime fits into what we think the Raiders would be. Ground and pound, never quit, surprisingly athletic for a guy his size, very mobile, very agile. I've seen him make some one-handed catches at Notre Dame. I'm telling you, he's better than people think he is. I'm just letting you know right now. I sound like, oh boy, who do you think you are? I am. Who do you think you are? I am. Wasn't that a kid that was messing with him during that game when he was bowling? The folklore has it that he was John back with a child. Good grief, Brody. I think Bucky Irving it goes without saying, number one, if you're looking for speed and you're looking for a do-it-all back, I mean a true do-it-all back, you're talking about Bucky Irving. If you're looking for a guy who's got a lot of power and can grind you out 30 times a game, for the most part, you're talking about somebody like Audric Estime. Blake Corum is a pretty good balance of both. Trey Benson is a pretty good balance of both. But for me, if Audric Estime is available and I'm the Raiders, I'm going to him. Because I'm going to take pressure off of my second-year quarterback. I've still got Devontae Adams. Everybody's claiming that he's not going to get traded. Whether he really, truly wants out of there or not, look, who the hell really knows, right? All we know is the numbers. Back-to-back seasons with the Raiders, still over 100 catches. Nothing is missing from his numbers. It doesn't matter who you put back there. It really doesn't. He's one of the few guys in the NFL that I'm telling you right now, I'm pretty sure that I could be the quarterback of the Raiders right now and get Brody 100 catches. And I'm not even kidding. He's just a legitimate wideout, man. That's all there is to it. He's legit. If anybody thought that Aaron Rodgers was making him look good, you're sadly mistaken. I know that he had that bad season away and everything. I get all that. But come on, man. He's had Jimmy G throwing him the football. Potentially he'll have Gardner Minshew. And Minshew, that's kind of a surprise, to be honest with you. I would have really thought that there was a chance that Indianapolis would have tried to keep him. And at the bare minimum, somebody may have given him a shot to be a starter. I know that he was a little overblown when he was with the Jaguars. I get that. He left out of there. He didn't do anything. But I'm telling you, I don't think the Colts without him this year would have been in the position they were at the end of that game to make the playoffs. And really at the end of the season in general. I'm really surprised that they're putting so much stock into Anthony Richardson. I don't get it. I don't know what anybody else sees in him. I don't understand it. He was out for the season. He got hurt. Minshew came in and saved the year. I just don't know what the hype is about. I really don't. And I think the comparison to Donovan McNabb is really an insult. I really believe that. I don't think it's a compliment. Because there are a lot of people that believe that McNabb was not that good. I mean, you hear all these people talk about McNabb. They'll tell you he's a legend, but he's not a Hall of Famer. And that's fine. But I'm not going to get into it. It pisses me off, to be honest with you. McNabb should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't give a damn what anybody says. He should be in. It's all there is to it. And while I think they're both to blame for what happened, him and Terrell Owens, I think that if I had to shift it 55-45, I would shift it 55 T.O. and 45 McNabb. I'm just keeping it a buck. I love T.O., man. One of the greatest wide receivers to ever play this game. Probably would have been revered as the best had he just cooled out and stayed in Philly, and him and McNabb would have won a ring or two together. I mean, seriously. But it is what it is. We're here. We're now. We're the Raiders is what we're talking about anyways, I should say. 13th pick in the draft. Not a bad spot. Easy place to get a running back. Not all the running backs are going to be gone, and I think that's who you go with if you're the Raiders initially. Because you're going to need somebody that can get you some screenplays. You're going to need somebody that can block. You're going to need somebody that can pound the football. You're going to need somebody you can run play action off of. You don't know what's going to happen with Devontae Adams yet. Nothing is set in stone. I think it would be a really good move to really build on the running game. You look at what Bijan Robinson did with Atlanta a season ago. You look at Christian McCaffrey, what he's done for the San Francisco 49ers. He is literally the glue of that football team. I don't care what anybody says. The running game is coming back to the NFL. You look at Tony Pollard, the deal he just got with the Titans. I think that was a very smart move. You still got Derrick Henry out there. I don't know. Maybe you can pick him up. I know where he's not going to go, and that's Denver. I'll tell you that damn much. That would be the most foolish thing he could potentially do. I just look at the Raiders right now, and I think to myself, who do you really need? Because now you've got your defensive front all set. Maybe you could use a little work on the defensive backfield, but other than that, I think the Raiders are really in a good place. They've just been missing a quarterback. Derek Carr is very hit and miss. Josh McDaniels is Josh McDaniels. Antonio Pierce is bringing a new fire to this franchise, one that hasn't been seen in a very long time. I think the Raiders are legit. I really do. I think they could easily win 10 games this year. Still a lot left in free agency. Still a lot left to be done with trades. We haven't had a training camp yet, but on the surface, 10 or 11 wins, it's really not bad, especially with the extended, extra game. And then on top of that, look, the AFC, no more Russell Wilson. The Denver Broncos, forget about it. They're out. Baltimore, we'll see what happens with them. Joe Burrow, can he stay healthy in Cincinnati? You've got Russell Wilson now with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That certainly complicates a lot of things, though, but at least he's out of the division. Justin Herbert, is he going to be able to stay healthy? We could potentially see 3 teams from the AFC West get in. Who's out there in the East right now? The Texans? Or the South, the Texans? I don't know that the Browns and the Bengals and the Steelers and the Ravens all repeat what they did a season ago. I just don't see it happening. But even then, who's out East? It's not a foregone conclusion. I really think we could see 3 teams this year out of the AFC West in the playoffs. The Chargers, provided that Justin Herbert stays healthy. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Las Vegas Raiders. And the Raiders are probably going to have to see the Steelers in a divisional game because I think now the Steelers take the division, and we could very logically be looking at the Chiefs and the Steelers in the AFC Championship game. But I think the Raiders are going to vastly improve this year. And as long as they're able to keep some form of this team together for the next couple of seasons, guys really get to know each other, the coaching situation, all that stuff, then I think in year 2 with Antonio Pierce, now you're a 12-win football team. And you're fighting for the division. I think defensively right now you're good. I think offensively you're still finding an identity, and I think that identity needs to start with the run game. The Green Bay Packers really don't sign free agents. I don't know if anybody's forgot about this or not, but they really don't sign a lot of free agents. In fact, at one point, they had the lowest total in the NFL in like a 20-year span. It's just not something that they do. If they lose somebody to free agency, they have somebody who's been brought up in the system that they can plug and play right back in. Right? Let's not forget, what was it, the 2015, 2016 season? 2016, 2017 season? Where the Green Bay Packers were a 4-1 football team, despite the fact that they had more injuries in the first 4 weeks of the year than anybody in NFL history had ever had. They were taking wide receivers and converting them over into running backs. And somehow they were still winning games. Now, obviously, when Aaron Rodgers went down, that changed everything. And that should tell you how good Aaron Rodgers was, especially in his prime. But damn, they were doing it. You can't argue with the result for the most part. Man Live, they win. They got Jacobs out of Las Vegas. They pull Xavier McKinney from the New York Giants, who are just imploding at the moment. They have no idea what the hell they're going to do. Look, the Packers' defense last year wasn't good, but it wasn't great. They only gave up 20 points a game. They were pretty solid against the pass. Where they failed was against the run. Well, they have like 128 yards a game. One of the worst in the NFL. But they were good in the red zone, though. The other place that they failed was on third down. I think they were 25th in the NFL. And then in the playoffs, 65% was allowed on third down. Look, really from week 9 on, if you go and you look at the metrics, the overall metrics of the Green Bay Packers, especially on offense, they were in the top 3 in just about every category in the NFL. Jordan Love was probably the most improved player through the second part of the season. I will say, and I do maintain, that the game against Tampa Bay to me against New Orleans was symptomatic of who they were all season long. They were down, they came back. That ended up being their stick. They were down at the beginning of the season. They ended up coming back. They played really well against Frisco, But, Jordan Love turned it over a couple of times. They had a hard time dealing with McCaffrey, which who doesn't? But when you've got a run defense that's not that good, now they've obviously made a move to change things on third down, right? What do? You go out and you get a defensive back, whether it's a safety or corner or whatever, any way that you can to get somebody to help you to stop third down conversions, especially on third and long. Now you've got somebody, McKinney, who can come up and help you out with a little bit of run defense as well. You're probably going to have to go out and start looking at linebackers to try and help you out with the run defense, some interior linemen to help you out with the run defense. That's something you'll probably be able to take in a draft, given that this draft is completely offensive-laden. I mean, you've got Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver. You've got how many quarterbacks? Drake May and Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels. Then a running back, you've got Bucky Irving, Audric Estime, Trey Benson. I mean, the list goes on and on. Now, obviously, it's all going to be about need, right? So what they need may not be there. A lot of people have them projected to go after a defensive back in the first round. Maybe they still go and get somebody out of the corner position. But I'm thinking linebacker and interior lineman. You've got to have somebody to help you out with your run game. You can't keep playing bend but don't break defense. They got away with a little bit of the schedule last year. Let's be honest. Second half of the season, and look, I don't want to say that their division was weak, but it wasn't exactly the strongest in the NFL. The Bears kind of came on a little bit like mid part of the season, but then just dropped right back off. The Detroit Lions had a really good start and then kind of hit a lull, and then they finished really well. I don't know what to make of the Green Bay Packers right now, if I'm being honest with you. I think, obviously, it's a really good move because even though Aaron Jones played really well, what did he have? I think he had 100 yards in the game against Frisco, and that was just on the ground. I think that if you have the option between Jones and Jacobs, you have to decide ultimately where your loyalty lies. And even though you're not really a team that goes out in free agency, nobody's job is safe in the NFL. And for whatever reason, they feel that it's time to move on, and Jacobs probably is a better option at running back, just to be honest. Look, let's not forget that they've got Tyler coming back. He re-signed. You've got Musgrave. You've got Kraft. Look, this is not a bad roster. It's all going to be about, can they begin the way that they basically finished and be consistent throughout the season. Jordan Love really played awful through the first half of the year. He had Musgrave open on a lot of plays, man, and just could not get him the football. And I said he had the worst situation in terms of all the quarterbacks in the NFL, pressure-wise. Why? Because he was going with back-to-back Hall of Famers. You got Brett Favre, you got Aaron Rodgers, and then your Jordan Love coming in. Is it a three-peat? Is he going to be able to do anything like what Aaron Rodgers did? Is he going to do anything like what Brett Favre did? Say what you want to about Brett Favre off of the field. We are talking about Brett Favre, the football player. It is undeniable who Brett Favre, the football player, was. Those are some tough-ass shoes to fill. Back to back. We're not talking about, the Denver Broncos situation where it's John Elway and then it's years and years down the road before they get the sheriff. We're not talking about that. Talking about directly afterwards. It couldn't have been easy for him. I applaud the way he handled himself. I really do. But now it's going to be one of those things where it's like, okay, Brody, you made it this far. You guys were dominant over the Dallas Cowboys. Do not let that score fool you, and do not let Dak Prescott yards fool you. That was garbage time play. Green Bay pulled everybody at the beginning of the fourth quarter. And they allowed Dallas to run up their yards and points. That was pretty much what that amounted to. Do not let that final score fool you. It was not a close game. I think the biggest thing for the Green Bay Packers is going to be figuring out their run defense. If they do that, they could be a really solid football team. And if Jordan Love stays consistent, minus his turnovers, kind of obvious things here, they could be a really good football team. But it really is going to be predicated upon whether or not they start well. Look, I don't think the Detroit Lions are going to be back-to-back seasons of good football. I really don't. I think this year they fall flat on their face again. I really do. I think they had their window and it's gone. Not to mention, this is who I've said Jared Goff is the entire time. They blew that lead in the second half for a lot of different reasons, but it is what it is. It's not just all on the quarterback, but a lot of it is. Defensively, they failed. Everything failed for that football team. The point of what I'm saying is this. I'm not so sure that Detroit could have beat Green Bay given what we saw from Green Bay at the end of the season. And Dan Campbell's already said this might have been it for us. Now, that's a legitimate fear that he's got for a lot of reasons. So we'll see how it all turns out. So the Philadelphia Eagles have just signed Saquon Barkley, and the drama has ensued. Right? Tiki Barber's all, "You're dead to us, Saquon. Good luck. You're dead to me." Saquon's all, "You've been a hater since I got to New York, and all the dead to me talk. Don't smile in my face when you see me." Well, that pretty much ends that, doesn't it? Look, man, I get it. Tiki's a beloved player with the New York Giants. He retired the year before they won the Super Bowl. Talk about bad luck. It is what it is. Everybody there loves Tiki Barber. And he was a lot of fun to watch. And he carried that football team for a lot of years, man. But the bottom line is for whatever reason, they couldn't get it done. You can name any number of reasons, quarterback play, whatever the hell. Now, I'm not going to get into what Tiki Barber was or what kind of clout he has with the New York Giants. I think he's playing a little too deep into the fans. And I think if anybody should remember what it was like to be a running back there and carry that football team the way that he did, it should be Tiki Barber. And if anybody should be glad that Saquon is making a lateral move, then it should be him. Now, I understand that Tiki retired and his loyalty is second to none. That's great. That's him. However, to the rest of society, it's, "Look, Brody, I don't feel that this team did me any justice. I'm not going to sit around like you. I'm not going to get screwed over like Barry Sanders. I'm not going to do any of those things. I'm going to go somewhere where I feel like they've got a quarterback, where they've got a coach that can use me, where they may be, losing some guys on defense, which they are, and they're losing them badly right now. But, we'll see what happens as, free agency continues to play out. The point of what I'm saying is you've got Jalen Hurts. They didn't use Swift the way that they should, but you're not going to give Saquon Barkley this type of money and not use him in the right way. Again, the Giants obviously quit. And you could see the moment. You could literally see the moment when Saquon was running out to try and make a block, and he looked around and he saw everybody else just standing around. And he just kind of said, "To hell with it." He didn't play at full speed either anymore. That's probably what got him hurt. And I think anybody who knows football, who watched that football team play, knows that everybody just gave up. They were just not the same football team that they were a year ago, which, by the way, I called a fluke. And I said it was the result of Saquon being healthy. For whatever reason, that team just did not give a damn. Now, maybe they didn't leave Saquon in the loop for whatever reason, Whatever it is, with whatever he's going with whyever he's out of there, they gave him what he wanted. He's gone. I don't blame him. I really do not. At some point, you have to do what you think is best for your career. You can't stay loyal to an organization who is not being loyal to you, who every time you want to do something, you have to fight them tooth and nail on it. You have to fight to get your money. You have to fight for everybody else to play the way that they're supposed to. You're doing everything on that football team. You're the primary focus. And without you, they're horrible. You just have to wake up and smell the coffee one day and realize that what he's doing is not bad. I don't blame Saquon Barkley for handling business and going out on his own. Look, the Giants are in a bad look right now. And the way that the season ended for the Philadelphia Eagles, to be honest with you, it is not much better. And the way this offseason has gone is definitely not much better. I mean, come on, man. You got old boy on the defensive end going, well, you know how things are, blah, 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 blah. I can't be mad at him. He's not happy with the way things are. Then all of a sudden it's, man, I never said that. I never requested a trade, blah, 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 blah. Well, yet here they are letting you go and get traded. They were willing to trade Swift, but they had to have known with that trade that they were probably going to be able to lock down Saquon. Or at least it was high risk, high reward. I really just think that they did what was best for everybody in that situation. The Eagles did what was best for them. Saquon Barkley did what was best for him. And why not give Jalen somebody to take some of the damn pressure off of you? Look, they should have had one of the best running games in all the NFL last year. I really have no idea why they got away from it. I don't know if it's contract stuff like the homie P said. I don't know if, there's numbers involved here that we just are not privileged to know. Whatever the case is, hopefully with Saquon Barkley, all that BS is going to balance out. Because you got to do something. What you did a season ago just did not work. And it made it so that way you're deep now in the draft. To top it all off, everybody was unhappy, wanting to leave. Jason Kelsey retires. What's going to happen with Fletcher Cox? There's still a lot to be determined with the Philadelphia Eagles. You had to do something. Something big. You had to quit BSing around and make a real legitimate move. And that's exactly what they did with Saquon. And that's exactly what Saquon did with the Giants. I'm done BSing here. You are wasting me away. I am in the prime of my career. Why in the hell am I going to use it on a quarterback who can't get it done, on a coaching staff that has no clue about what they're doing, guys who don't even want to try? What the hell am I doing here? There's no point. I'm not getting any younger. My time in the NFL is limited, bro. He's already been injury prone as it is. He's got to go out and try and be with a winner and make a few duckies while he can. And if there's anybody that's mad about it, i.e. Tiki Barber, then that's just too damn bad. Because I remember, Bradshaw being real upset about John Elway. I think John Elway's career turned out just fine. So he could be dead to you all you want him to, bro, and that's cool. But I'm with Saquon on this one. Hello, everybody. I'm Drew Duncan. Thank you so much for tuning in. Do not forget that I am wherever you are listening to podcasts. Simply take a device to play Fired Up by Drew Duncan. You can listen to me live Monday through Friday starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Block50Radio.com. I am wherever you are listening to syndications of the show. If you miss a show live, don't want to pay for any more podcast subs, head on over to my YouTube channel, The Real Drew Duncan, The RL Drew Duncan, where I do post entire episodes for free. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, don't you dare touch that dial.